Welcome to The Third Chair, a show about real people, real stories, real life. And here are your hosts for The Third Chair, Peter Grigg and Doug Bazeski.
Well, he was really funny.
Yes, and he answered the questions we made up on the fly, didn't he?
He's very talented. I'm really excited that he's going to play some gigs in Colorado this year. And of course, we're talking about Chad Hutto, the Cowboy Comedian. He has agreed
Funny guy.
A very funny guy. He's agreed to doing another episode with us.
And so he's kind of crazy, too.
He's kind of crazy. He's very funny, but now we know he has no judgment. Please welcome back warmly Chad Hutto. Hi, and welcome to The Third Chair, where we're here with our guest, Chad Hutto. Chad, thanks for coming back. We had a great time with you last week. Enjoyed your set. And I've had a little chance to think about some things. I've noticed on your website that you sell a shirt that's called Argue Naked. Now, I am totally for that sort of idea with my wife. I'm not sure that she would share the sentiment. So what is the story behind that? There's got to be either a joke or a story that prompted that merchandise.
It's a little bit of both, actually. My wife, we argue over stupid stuff. We do. We were arguing last year over a vacation. I wanted to go to the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. She wanted to go with me. So we developed, I developed a surefire way to win every argument. And so when she starts an argument with me, I just
start undressing.
I get naked. One of two things are going to happen. Either she's going to drop the argument and walk away, or she's going to get naked with me. Either way, I win.
That's good. So
we were arguing over lunch. Last week, actually, we were arguing over lunch. I wanted a hamburger. She didn't. I said, what do you want? I said, you want a sandwich? She's like, I don't want a sandwich. She's got attitude. So I'm standing there just, all right, what do you want for lunch? She walks away. She drops the argument. As I'm getting dressed, mall security comes up, walks me out of the food court. But I won the argument. So.
Yeah, that's very good. I know I was arguing with my wife once and I mooned her, but that sort of took the wind out of her sails.
I tried that once going down the highway, run off in the ditch.
That's...
State Farm didn't buy any of that story. But,
Oh, that's hysterical. I love to hear how couples in a mature fashion deal with disagreements.
We tried the wrestling thing with the video games and all that, but she got to beat me so bad, then I just started body slamming. She started body slamming me on the floor, so it was we had to quit that before we got too violent.
So we've talked in pre-production, and you've done a lot of really interesting type of work over the years. One of them, you were involved, you got a degree in criminal justice, and you spent some time in that field, primarily in the prison system, is that right?
In the prison system. I graduated with a degree in criminal justice on a Thursday and started driving a truck on Monday.
You didn't feel like that was the best job prep?
At that time, I was young, dumb, and really didn't care, and I was like, you know what, I want to drive a truck. I was growing up watching Smokey and the Bandit and all that. I wanted to drive a truck, so my dad told me to go get a degree and I could do whatever I wanted to, so I took his advice.
Now, when you say drive a truck, I assume you mean like an 18-wheeler as opposed to like a Ford F-150 or something.
I drove, had a 96 Peterbilt. And that was my go-to truck, was a Peterbilt.
I know nothing about those kinds of trucks. I know our producer Doug, who we will show on camera someday,
We're holding off as long as possible because we don't want to.
Cameras are
scare you.
Cameras are expensive when they break.
Yeah, exactly. So I try to picture what the life of a truck driver is like. So were you going just straight north from Texas, or what were you, or were you based in Colorado, or what were you doing?
Well, actually, I was living here in Colorado when I started driving a truck and moved back to Texas. And I mainly stayed in the Midwest and the East Coast area. That's mainly where I stayed. I came up here a few times, Idaho. I've been to 38 of the 48 continental United States, Canada, and Mexico doing that.
Yes.
And now I want to go back to those places doing comedy. So
that sounds great. Is truck driving dangerous? Not so much like the fact that you might crash or jackknife, but like where you go to stops to rest. Is that where's most of the danger? Is it going through inner city, L.A., or is it inner city Chicago, or is it just trying to sleep somewhere more rural at a Pilot or a Flying J or whatever?
I've thankfully never had any problems. I did hear of several people, like pulling off at a rest stop. I had one guy tell me he pulled off at a rest stop. He wasn't tired. He just, didn't feel like driving at night. So he just pulled over at a rest stop and was going to sleep through the night. And he was ahead of schedule, which I never was. But anyway, he said he pulled off at a rest stop and he closed his curtain. He just laid down, turned his TV on, and he heard a knock on the window. And he opened the curtain. He said there was a woman standing on his doorsteps there, and he reached up and rolled the window down. She stuck her head in and looked around and looked over at him, and he said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "I just wanted to see if you were the person that killed me." And said she stepped off the steps and walked 10 or 15 feet into the grass and just faded away and disappeared. He said, "I got in the truck and got the hell out of there."
Yeah, that's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, I would have got out of there too.
I asked him, I said, "Are you sure you wasn't too tired?" He said, "Dude," he said, "if it didn't happen to me," he said, "I wouldn't believe it either."
Wow.
But I fortunately never had anything like that. I did hit LA the first time and only time at straight up 5 o'clock, so I got to witness LA traffic. Luckily, it was all in the daylight. So I didn't have to deal with anything like that. So I've been very fortunate in things that I've got to do that other people have actually got to do and had to experience hard things like
now,
that.
I know you have a military background, and I understand that at one point you worked security for a country singer. Was this someone famous like Garth Brooks or Taylor Swift? I don't know if she's considered country anymore.
I don't think she was ever considered country.
Well, yeah, you know better than I.
She was more of an ex-boyfriend's checklist, I think.
I would be afraid to date
Taylor
her
because then you have a song.
Exactly. You won't get any royalties off of it because she'll change my name.
So this country singer, would we know who they were if you mentioned the name? I'm not asking you to say it yet.
Possibly. She was bigger back in the late 90s. She was very young.
Did she go on a diet since then? She's bigger than I know it's terrible.
She had a few. I think she ended up doing like 6 or 8 albums. I think I don't.
Wow, so that's pretty significant.
But she is actually the one who kind of got me back into doing comedy.
So she encouraged you to get back.
Because between I actually started comedy in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And had to stop and focus on raising a family, and then she and I ended up getting back in touch with each other last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so she kind of pushed me to go start doing it again. So that's what I did.
Did you ever have to deal with like rowdy fans or real death threats or
no
those kinds of things?
Not really. It was. With her, it was more just kind of laid back, and everybody kind of got along. I mean, it was really nice. I learned a lot. I got to see a lot and meet a lot of interesting people. Was, but as far as rowdy fans, she was more of, kind of the teenage idol back in those days. So, I mean, the rowdiest fan might have had Mama pulling their arm back, saying, no, you can't go over there right now. So, whereas today you got, people, fighting to get a picture with a cell phone,
Right. Well, I know a small tidbit of trivia. Doug and myself, we were extras on the movie Our Souls at Night. And I got to stand beside Robert Redford and Jane Fonda for 4 hours. But I wasn't allowed to look at them. Strange rules. But yes, that is the extent of how famous we are. We've met people.
I was actually in a TV commercial for Flying W here.
Oh, were you? Flying W Ranch?
With matter of fact, with Scott, myself and Scott were in the video.
I was in a TV commercial here for a car commercial where they were giving away gas, and I actually ate a burrito.
He was kind of semi-famous because that's when I first met you, and
people walked up to me in the street and said, "You're the burrito guy." They saw it on TV. It was amazing.
He didn't have a word. He didn't say anything.
I didn't say anything. I just ate a burrito and looked stupid. They said I played to my strengths.
Your Oscar's in the mail, right?
Oscar's in the mail.
He did it good.
Yeah, I'll tell you about an Oscar in the mail when we come right back from our first break.
Coffee of the Kentucky-Arizona Walnut Association?
It's kava.
The national coffee of Kawasaki, Japan?
It's kava.
Hiya!
Is it the secret elixir of the surfers in Hawaii?
Or is it the secret island recipe of Kona, Koala, Kauai, or Cola? It's kava. Kava is Polish for coffee. And here at Kava Coffee, we focus on serving a delicious, high-quality cup of coffee in a space where love, coffee, and people mix into the perfect blend.
We value our relationships with our customers and our roasters. Buy locally whenever possible and truly have the homemade touch. Our pastries, syrups, and even our almond milk made in-house.
So come on in, relax, get some work done. Enjoy the Kava community, some encouraging words from the Kava Coffee gang.
Kava Coffee.
Be awake.
Welcome back to the third chair with our guest, Chad Hutto. And we're going to talk now about some of his law enforcement type experiences, which I understand is mostly in the prison system. Is that right?
Mostly in the prison system.
Mostly Texas?
Mostly Texas. I did work public security here back in the 90s, and I worked for a sheriff's department here as well.
Oh, what'd you do in the sheriff's department?
I was working in jail. I was a glorified babysitter.
Yeah. Still dangerous.
It is. It was fun. It was fun.
Sure. And do you remember, like, was there ever like one or two inmates that you think back on that impressed you for whatever reason, either as being really bad dudes or people that had really decided to change? Was there anyone that sort of stuck out over the years that imprinted on your mind?
Actually, there was one that it was the only inmate I ever wanted to trade places with.
Wow.
And he he had shot up out in the world. That's what they call, when you hear an inmate say out in the world, that he was talking about outside of prison. He had shot heroin and everything up. Anyway, they ate away the coating in his veins and in his stomach. He was internally bleeding to death. There was no way they could stop it. And so we spent the night with him in the hospital, and he had just come to our unit not very long before that, and he had talked about his daughter was coming, his little girl was coming to see him, and he was an older gentleman. He was old enough to probably be my daddy. And anyway, he said, my little girl's coming to see me this weekend. And so we talked about that, and I would talk to him about that and try to keep his mind off of what was going on and everything. And that night they pumped 2 jars about that big around, about that tall, of blood out of his stomach. They were putting blood in just about as fast as it was going out. Anyway, I got off work that next morning, went home, came back at night, and they sent me back to the hospital to ride in the ambulance with him to Galveston. And we stopped at Arby's in Nacogdoches, Texas, and he wanted a Sprite. So I went in and bought him a Sprite. He hadn't had a Sprite from a fountain in years, and he wanted a fountain Sprite. So I went in there and got him a Sprite, and we got him down to the hospital and dropped him off. And for some reason or other, I ended up calling the unit 2 or 3 days later, and I was off work, and I had to call for whatever reason. Anyway, the lady that answered the phone in the control tower, she asked me if inmate so-and-so was the one I went to Galveston with, and I said, yeah. And this was on a Wednesday, and she said they just sent for his personal property. He passed away last night. And that one just kind of stuck with me, because all he talked about was my little girl's coming to see me. He hadn't seen her in 4 or 5 years, or whatever the case was. She was still in like grammar school whenever he went in, and she had already graduated high school at this point, or junior high, whatever. She had already graduated high school. And so I wanted to, that's the only time I wanted to trade places with somebody, just so he could see his little girl,
Wow.
But I went in to work in that field with the attitude, I didn't care what you did, you needed to fry. And then when I went in and actually realized those were people, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's dad, that's somebody's brother, uncle, cousin, that's somebody's family. And I know I wouldn't want somebody treating any member of my family the way I was going in with it. And so it changed me.
Sure. How could an experience like that not change a person? On YouTube, sometimes you see these videos that some guy that's been in prison a long time, and he gets out, he puts on, how to survive prison. Here are the 10 rules. Shower with your underwear on, or
Don't drop the soap.
Don't drop the soap. Doesn't matter if you're white and you get along with black people in prison. You just hang with white people, and things are very clicky, and you only have certain directions you can walk on the playground or the workout yard without getting into trouble or starting a fight. Did you find sort of that kind of culture?
It's very cliquish, but prison is all about respect. You got to give it to get it, and if you ever lose it, you won't ever get it back in there. It was, the first unit I ever set foot on was a McConnell unit in Beeville, Texas. and that was in 1997. And they said when that unit opened, I believe it was 95, when that unit opened, it was ranked the most dangerous state-operated facility in the country.
Wow.
When we went through it, I was 19 years old. We went through our little, we called it a unit tour. We actually had to work an 8-hour shift there with alongside of seasoned staff. But when we went through it in 97, June of 97, they said it was ranked the second most dangerous facility.
Improving.
Improving. Yeah,
It was improving.
We're number 2.
Telford,
We're not last anymore.
I believe Telford unit and just outside Texarkana went to number 1. But while I was there, I think 3 or 4 inmates went out by ambulance and 2 or 3 staff members went out by ambulance from assaults.
Mm-hmm.
I did, I did experience some assault situations. I experienced stabbings. I watched my first person take their last breath behind the walls. It just, you'd be surprised how loud somebody's hand falling from here to a gurney that they're laying on would be when they finally pass away. It taught me a lot. It taught me at 19 years old that is not where I needed to end up.
That's a very good lesson. What's always amazed me about the whole prison system is how vibrant and alive their black market system seems to be. And for a place that's locked down with all these checkpoints and rules, it seems like almost anything's available. I kind of think of like the movie Shawshank Redemption and that sort of thing. Was that your experience too?
It just depends on how much you want to shove up there as to how much you can bring in. We actually had a staff member had bugle tobacco taped around his ankle inside of his boot that he was bringing in.
Oh, wow.
To the guys. I caught that. I actually reported one thing which initially got the investigation started, and then they caught him bringing stuff in.
Wow.
I remember in my academy, they talked about a lady brought her baby in to see, I guess, her husband or boyfriend or baby daddy or whatever he was, and the baby was screaming. And just constantly screaming. She went in the restroom and changed the baby's diaper, came back out, baby was fine. But then started screaming again. And come to find out, she had shoved drugs up the baby's hind end in a balloon.
Wow.
And the baby was trying to pass it and didn't pass all of it. And then I think, if I remember right, one of the balloons ruptured inside. And so, I mean, it's, there are desperate times call for desperate measures, but that draws the line. When you involve kids, that draws the line.
Yeah, and the penalties for that should be pretty harsh. Now, you've talked about some pretty serious memories. In some way, has this ever led to sort of trying to look at the comedy of it, or can I look at these horrible things that happened, and is there something funny in there I can glean without being disrespectful, so to speak?
Everybody's going to look at this different. For example, like I said, I watched my first person take their last breath behind the walls, and I joked about it, not in a derogatory way toward that person. I'm like, well, that's one less mouth to feed. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of, comedy helps me get through things. Making jokes about things helps me get through things. And that, but I mean, the irony of that joke is that person goes, 3 more come in and replace him. Mm-hmm. So it's, but it's just like I said, that's what helped me. I've never watched somebody die.
I'm a physician by training, and a lot of times the physicians get criticized for perhaps laughing at an inappropriate time. But there's a certain truth to the matter that you either laugh and let the emotions out somehow, or you cry, or you turn to the bottle, or you start doing a bunch of drugs, And so, it's difficult when you see hard things.
It is.
Figuring out how to deal with it.
Fortunately, with mine, I commend my parents and grandparents for my upbringing, that I've never turned to the bottle or dope or anything like that. The only time I've ever touched any kind of dope was when we took it off somebody in an arrest or when they come in with it or whatever the case was.
Well, I understand you drink a lot of sweet tea.
I do drink a lot of sweet tea.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I don't drink other things that come in bottles, but I never have turned to that
That's good.
as a, oh my God, I can't take it. Give me, come on, Jack, let's go have a talk, So I've never done that. I mean, I've been a little inebriated and everything. But it was just merely for pleasure, not for
sure, not for stress. Well, very good. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come right back, Doug is going to carry on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a question that we left with last week.
What was that question?
Who is Haas from Bonanza?
Who is Haas from Bonanza?
Yeah, we're going to reminisce a little about Bonanza.
Who is the actor that played him?
Dan
And some other trivia.
That's
When
right.
we come right back.
Oh, shoot. No, moved up here and I actually got to go ice fishing. Anybody been ice fishing? Ice fishing for the first time last year. A buddy of mine came up from Texas and he said, man, I want to go ice fishing. I was like, how you catch it? He said, I don't know. We're going to go figure it out. So we went to figure it out. We went up here to 11 Mile. We stopped in Lake George there and got us they offered us one of them drills. We didn't want one of them drills. We old school. We had us a pickaxe. We wanted a pickaxe. So we got us a pickaxe. We went out there in the middle of that lake, big old chunk of ice, and we picking away. Well, we broke that one. Had to go back and get another one. About an hour later, when we came back, broke that one. Had to go back and get another one an hour later. And that dude at that store said, man, y'all must be reeling them in out there ice fishing. He said, we ain't got the boat in the water yet. Well, let me tell you.
Well, we're back.
Welcome
We're
back.
back to the third chair with Chad Hutto, and we were just talking about checklists. It's like, if you're gonna run the cameras and stuff, you really need to have a checklist so you don't forget to turn something on. Otherwise, you can think you're filming an episode and you're not.
What's happened to us?
Yeah.
I actually recorded my first show in 10 years. I recorded it, audio recorded it, forgot to turn the recorder off, and it was recording everything. And then when I finally run back over there to turn it off, I deleted the whole darn thing.
Oh my goodness.
And then I was recording another show up here and forgot to hit the record button and thought the whole time the show was being recorded. So
yeah, that's
that's easy.
We at one of the local libraries, they have a recording studio here, 21C here in town, and apparently, by the manager told us this, that a group had gone in to record an episode of something, and what they had done is they had turned their cameras off during the action and then turned them on during the breaks. So they recorded all the breaks and none of the content. And we've all been guilty of it. That's why pilots use checklists, even if they're really smart people. They just don't want to forget to turn something on or off, or landing gear or whatever.
They're
that's
also
important.
rechecking the maintenance by looking
Yes.
what you want them to do, because you don't want some to happen to the plane when you're in the air.
You don't drop them wheels when it's time to go down. You turn the plane into a skateboard.
That's
a
right.
surfboard.
And the other thing too,
happened a
I
few
know if I
times.
was the captain of the plane and I didn't see that they were loading on my chili dogs for the flight, I just might, just have
leave
to
that thing in park.
Yeah, leave that thing in park until that food arrives. Yeah.
Until the transmission screwed up. You got
Yeah. Oh, there's something wrong. Yeah.
And the guy will come and replace the part while you enjoy your chili dog.
Yeah.
That's right. Or have them come just to tell you, everything's okay. Oh, well, I wasn't sure. I saw the light flash for a quarter of a second.
we actually went on a helicopter tour for a deal, and we're walking out and to get on the helicopter, and there's a dude there. He's got a fake leg. He's got shorts on, so he's got his prosthetic leg. His hand is missing here, and he's only got 2 fingers or 3 on this hand and an eye patch on. And he's an Asian guy, So my first thought is this failed kamikaze pilot is fitting to fly us around in this helicopter.
Failed kamikaze.
But he's asking everybody what their weight is. It's just 5 of us. 5 is all we can fit in there. And he's like, how much you want? I'm like, you need to know that. And he said, don't we know how much fuel to put in the chopper? I said, fill it up.
Yeah.
I said, it's a 45-minute flight. It ain't like you can pull over on the side of the sky and wait on AAA to bring you some. Fill it up.
Well, the military can pull that off with fuel plates.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, not so good for
Kind of hard to do that with a helicopter. You got to turn that big rotor off. And
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. My goodness.
Well, last week you ended the show and you mentioned Haas from Bonanza, but
Haas from Bonanza.
some of our audience has never had the pleasure of seeing Bonanza.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, is that a copyrighted tune?
Yes, it is. I have Johnny
we do
Cash
not own the rights
sing
to
it
that
on
music.
my what is the little one?
Michael Landon.
No, on the
MP3.
yeah, the MP3 player. On my MP3 player, which I guess are obsolete now.
Yeah, I think so.
iPod, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time where that was leading edge technology.
Yeah, so I'm only 25 years behind.
No, it's not bad.
But,
it's not bad, dude.
I'm still listening to 8-track, so I ain't even caught up to you yet.
Oh, okay. Now I feel modern. I feel my daughter.
Yeah, you got the mamas and the papas on 8-track. Yeah.
But I do have the mama and papas on my bipod. Yeah.
I do. Yeah, California Dreaming.
Yeah, Dreaming in California.
But
So-
if you didn't watch, or if you've never heard of Bonanza, you were a sheltered child.
Yeah, that's right.
Hoss was played by Dan Blocker, an actor from East Texas. Never met him. I've met several of his family members, but my dad would always use the term Hoss. It's like, playing football. He's like, good game, Hoss, or Dad, can I go play outside? Yeah, take off, Hoss, or if he was talking to somebody, like, all right, Hoss, I'll see you later, so he just, and that just kind of stuck. And I used to drive a dump truck for an oil field company back home, and we all had our CB handles we went by. And I was in the military at the time. I was in the National Guard. And I was shooting for sniper school, so the boss man asked me, he said, hey, what do you go by? And I said, well, I don't know. So I went by several different things, and I said, but they all seem to be taken by somebody else. So I said, I'm shooting for sniper school. I said, my daddy always called me Hoss. He said, you look like a Hoss, so that's what it's going to stay at. And to this day, you can call him and ask him who Chad Hutto is, and he won't. He said, I don't know. And you say, well, who's Hoss? And he'll go and tell you stuff about me that you probably don't want to know.
Wow.
But that was actually, I actually said that as a joke to a place that I was applying for a few years ago to drive a truck for them. And it was local, home every night kind of thing. And they asked me where all I worked, and I told them, I said, you can call him. Our boss's name was Hammer. I didn't know his real name for a couple of years. But I said, call him and ask Hammer. I said, he's not going to tell you who Chad Hutto is, though. And he said, why? I said, he's going to tell you who Hoss is. Well, they called me after they had called and did the employment review and all that on there. He said, you were right. I was like, really? I said, I was really just joking. But he said, you were right. He said, we asked who Chad was. He's like, that name don't sound familiar. He said, well, oh, yeah, you probably know him by Hoss. He said, oh, yeah, well, that son of a, and he just, went on. He said, he did tell us some things we really didn't want to know. But
Oh, my goodness.
But on Bonanza, big rancher, and he has 3 sons.
3 sons.
Did you know they were from 3 different wives?
Yeah.
I guess they didn't survive long in the West because none of the wives were around.
I guess not. And honestly, looking back at that, in that era of TV shows, how that was so well accepted, But in the show, he was always married to each one of them's mom. I think only one, maybe two of the shows that I remember you actually saw, like back in time, saw the wife or the mother of. I know I saw, the mother of Hoss, and I believe Little Joe, but I don't think I ever saw Adam.
Little Joe was played by Michael Landon.
And there was a culture of like ordering wives, in especially the frontier.
Well, the story of Little Joe was his mom was married to Ben, which is the dad, was married to Ben's good friend, and his good friend saved Ben's life, but had lost his life in the process. And he asked Ben to go tell his wife what happened. His wife was in New Orleans, and said go tell his wife what happened. And he went down there and met her and told her what happened, and then they fell in love, got married, and then boom.
Wow.
9 months later, out came little Joe. I guess I don't know the story on that, but you know, but
It's
that's
an
how they got
interesting
together.
backstory. Of course, at that time on American television, there were a lot of westerns.
It was.
I mean, that was very popular.
Bonanza was probably that and Gunsmoke. were
Gunsmoke.
busted.
Yeah.
I actually have Doc from Gunsmoke. I actually have his recipe for meatloaf.
Oh, wow.
I call it beer loaf because I put deer meat in it.
Ah,
I do deer and beef, so there's where the beer comes in.
oh, wow.
I made
No,
that from.
I thought traditionally when you make a good meatloaf, you should use like 2/3 beef and 1/3 pork. But
Well,
I don't know.
I made that for my mama the first time. Just after they moved back to Texas in 2016, I made one. She said, "What's for supper?" I said, "I'm making beer loaf." She said, "I'm not eating nothing with no beer in it." So I said, "Okay, I'll just make meatloaf." So there's no beer in it. Well, you call it beer loaf. I said, So anyway, after she ate it, she like, "This is good. This is good." I was like, "Well, it's got a pound of beef and a pound of deer. That's where the beer comes in." I knew it had deer meat in it. I just knew it had something.
So
else.
like a combination of beef and deer beer. See, I was sitting here thinking like you're pouring a half a can of something Canadian or American in there for flavor or something. Yeah.
Well, we mixed our stuff up whenever we cooked. We had a deer camp down in Pagosa Springs when we were hunting down there every year, and my mama actually used a bottle of Canadian Club bourbon to roll out the biscuit dough for breakfast in the morning. When you
Well,
said
I had
something
a-
That's the
Canadian
little
reminded me
added
of that.
flavor to it.
Yeah, my grandmother every day at 4:00 would do a double shot of Canadian Club rye whiskey with Canada Dry ginger ale. 2 shots at 4. Whether she needed it or not.
And then
Outlived-
she would eat the biscuit.
Yeah. Outlived like 8 of her doctors
Wow.
who would all tell her how to live, and they were dying off, and she made it to 90.
And Mama never would drink. Never would drink any of it. But she used. She used that bottle for a rolling pin to roll the dough out. That was the only only round thing we had out there.
Yeah, wow. So some interesting stories from the past in the ranch, so to speak. Well, we'll continue with more interesting stories when we get right back. We'll get back to our guest in just a moment. But
Do you have a story to tell?
would you, yes you, like to be a guest on the third chair?
Send us an email and tell us about yourself and your story.
And please follow us on social media.
Now back to the episode. Now I'm going to talk to you about what is he doing over there.
Wake up!
We're filming.
I know I'm boring, but
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yeah. The last rapper tried to strangle me with his gold chain. But anyways, we are back.
So you couldn't sleep again? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
it was a terrible night. Yes.
So you support the Pikes Peak suicide prevention, and unfortunately, we are either a first or second most suicide city in the country.
Actually, I learned this is the first year we did suicide prevention. I do a fundraiser every year for a different nonprofit. Last year was with Children's Hospital. This year moved up here. Was going to try to stay with Children's and just do a different area of Children's. But my wife said, "Why don't we do suicide?" And my best friend committed suicide February 7th of 2019.
Certainly.
And my wife's stepmother of 35 years committed suicide February 3rd of this year. So I'm like,
goodness.
suicide hits a little closer to home. So yeah, let's do that. So we did that. And I actually did a video with the director of Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention, Miss Cass Walton. And she kind of educated me on that Colorado is always in the top 10. The state of Colorado is always in the top 10 for suicide deaths. They may fluctuate, maybe 10 this year, maybe 5 next year, whatever, but they're always in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And that for every suicide, 115 people are affected by one person committing suicide.
Wow.
So we set up. You talked about riding bulls earlier. We set up the benefit and to raise $2,000. We came in just a little short of the goal this year, and that was a big promotional error on that caused that. But anyway, I mean, the goal was we raised $2,000. I get to ride a bull again. The last bull I actually got on was, like I say, 21 years ago in Cowhand, Colorado. So it that was how my wife was going to let me ride a bull again. So, but yeah, I like helping other people. Like I said, comedy helped me. It pulled me out of that. I was not to the suicide point yet, but the thought had crossed my mind. But it pulled me out of that, and like I say, I hope using my comedy can pull somebody else out of that spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just the fact that we talk about it, hopefully, if someone is suffering and thinking about it, maybe they're willing to reach out and get some help.
And I tell people, if you're in that position, my friend, I'll tell you this. 2 nights prior to the Tuesday and Wednesday night, that before he passed away, he called me, and I not really talked him off the ledge. You know, he wasn't saying that he was wanting to kill himself or anything like that. He was just very paranoid. If you were driving down his street looking for this guy's house and you drove by his house a little slower than he thought you should, he thought you were after him. So he was really paranoid about that. But when he came, he lived in Dallas. When he came to my house in East Texas, he wasn't like that. He was just, I mean, everything was fine. Everything was happy-go-lucky. But we hunted and fished together and stuff. So we did things to keep his mind off of it. But anyway, he called me about 2:30 that morning of the 7th. And I remember picking my phone up and going, I got to go to work. I just went to sleep. I hadn't been asleep 30 minutes. I said, I will call him back in the morning. And I laid my phone down, and I remember thinking, what if he does something stupid? And I thought, nah, he ain't going to do that. There's no signs of it. No signs of him doing something like that. So I went on to sleep. When I got up the next morning, I tried to call him. He didn't answer. Went straight to voicemail. Waited about 10 o'clock. I called his office. They said he wasn't there yet. It was a family-run business, so his sister was there. So she told me, I said, something's not right. His phone's going straight to voicemail. I said, something's not right. And anyway, we went in, and I was telling her, I was like, you can ping his cell phone to see where he's at. Because when I talked to him, he was in Oklahoma 2 nights ago. He was just out riding around and ended up in Oklahoma. And anyway, she said, well, Mom and Dad's going to the doctor. When they get out of the doctor, they're going by his house to check on him. And his mom found him face down in the hallway. So when they estimated he shot himself about 3 o'clock that morning. So about 30 minutes after he called me, I missed the call. I didn't miss the call. I just, silenced the call. And, was he calling me to say I can't take it anymore, bye bang? Or was he calling me to talk him off the ledge? I'll never know. Mm-hmm. I don't lose sleep over it. But I made a promise to myself that if I ever felt anybody was in that situation, or if anybody ever called me, messaged me, whatever, and said, I'm to this point, I'm not going to ignore that call. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And that's a difficult situation, because sometimes it may mean phoning the police or somebody, and that person even being put in a psychiatric hold for a couple days while they try and figure out what's going on. And people, and if you're
sometimes
the depressed
I can
one,
pay off though.
Oh no, totally. But they also may be angry at you for a while too. Like, how dare you intervene and save my life? Yeah. Kind of a thing. And when you're depressed, it doesn't make sense.
You just have to take that. Yeah.
We had a deputy back home that saw somebody get on a bridge. It was at night. Saw somebody get on a bridge, and he slammed on brakes, jumped out, and reached and grabbed the person just as they went to jump.
Oh, wow.
So, it happens. I mean, you see it every day. It happens a lot here. My wife works for the police department, and she can't tell me everything, but she says, we had a suicide call, or we had guy wanting to jump off a building or whatever, and she actually told me, and she didn't say details, but she was telling me, because she needs somebody to talk to sometimes, this is what's happened, blah, blah. But somebody that said they were wanting to kill themselves, and she stayed on the phone and talked to them until the officer showed up and got him. And so being what she is in that position is, I told her there's no way I could do it. No way I could do it. She, from a call from back home, she told me about with, a lady just was irate and saying she was going to kill her kids and kill herself. And I said, there's no way I could have sat on the phone and listened to that. I'd have been like, where you at? I'll be there in just a minute.
Yeah.
We'll settle this right quick.
Yeah. Well, we'll if we're able to find something for Colorado or national, put some sort of contact number at the end of the show as well. Suicide.
I actually have a link on my website. I'm keeping the link up from the fundraiser. You can go cowboyhosscomedian.com/fundraiser, and it'll go directly to that page. And I have a link directly to, you hit donate, and you donate directly to Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention.
All right, very good, very good.
And we also have suicide prevention T-shirts that we sell as well that benefits that.
And going from one sad thing to another, in December 2008, your house burned down?
2008. I got up, went to work that morning, got laid off that morning, and we had a lease pasture where we had some horses and cows. I went out there and did some work out there. My wife was at her mama's, and she called and said, hey, Lane's going to get off the bus in about 15 minutes. I'm 30 minutes away. I'm like, well, I'll go get him. And I got to the house and got him off the bus, and she showed up about 15 minutes later, and we had to go grocery shopping. So we left, and we got to town about 20 minutes down the road, and our neighbor called and said, your house is on fire. So,
and like all your most of your earthly possessions,
everything we had was in there. We had some stuff. Luckily, we had taken pictures down. It was around Christmas time. So my wife, when she decorates for Christmas, you think Hobby Lobby threw up in our house.
You should see my house.
So we take down all family pictures. We take down everything off the walls and add other stuff up. So fortunately, a lot of our family pictures were off the wall in a storage box out in our storage building, which part of it caught on fire as well.
Wow. Well,
it was about 20 feet away from the house, and the shingles started melting, and the wood on the side of it started getting charred.
But the good news was nobody was hurt.
Nobody was hurt. Nobody was there. I just helped a buddy, and again, I make jokes out of everything. I just helped a buddy process 2 deer that he had killed, and he gave me some of the deer meat for helping him. And I put that in the freezer 2 or 3 days before, and the firefighters were out there putting the fire out, and I'm sitting in the backyard looking completely through my house. And I was like, there's some deer meat in the freezer. I think it might be done now if y'all are hungry. And they looked at me like, really, dude? Really? I'm like, man, that's how I get through stuff, dude. I mean, I didn't strike the match that lit this thing on fire. Come to find out, it was, for people that want to know, it turned out to be an electrical issue in our bathroom light fixture.
Oh my goodness. So much trouble from an electrical issue. Yeah.
They determined the cause undetermined, but the investigator told us, he said, that's the only thing it could be.
Wow.
But he said, because I can't put my finger on and say that's where the spark came from, I have to determine it undetermined.
So you've had some lumps and bumps along the way in your life, and we'll have some final thoughts when we come back from this break. Hi, it's Peter from the set of The Third Chair. I just want to put in a good word for my good friend and owner of 9 Round Kickboxing in Colorado Springs, Melissa Lance. Her studios provide a phenomenal workout in 30 minutes. I know I've benefited from it over the last 2 years. I've lost over 30 pounds and really appreciate the encouragement, the excitement, the expertise of the trainers It's a great workout. I encourage you to check it out. That's 9-round kickboxing in Colorado Springs.
Welcome back to the third chair, and after your fire there was some good news because the community got behind and helped your family. How did they do that?
Yeah, I tell you, they got together and within 24 hours had over $4,000 raised for us. And people were bringing
Wow.
clothes to us. Somebody had went to a local bank there and set up a donation account. But within 24 hours, we had like $4,000 delivered to us. There was a church there back home that we had never set foot into. This particular church, we wasn't a part of that church. That wrote us $1,000 check. I mean, it was amazing how everybody pulled together, and it was great to be a part of a small community like that. Growing up, that's where I grew up, and so I was floored. I was not expecting it by any means, but yes, it was awesome.
Sometimes communities can do that, and and people don't mention it that much. I remember the first fire we had here up in the mountains about 11 years ago, and they said the firefighters' socks that they needed socks, and the next day they said, "Please do not bring any more socks. We have more socks. We don't even know where we're going to put them," and because people just bought their socks.
It's sad that it's sad in a way to me that it takes a tragedy like that to pull people together to actually help somebody. But a lot of people, you don't see what they're going through. You may see somebody, in the grocery store or whatever that may be contemplating suicide, whatever, because they've just lost their wife or girlfriend or fiance or whatever the case is. A smile goes a long way. A kind word, "Hey, how you doing?" Hold the door for somebody, and I don't expect, if I hold the door for somebody, I don't expect somebody to say thank you or wave or nod or anything. I mean, it's nice. I'm not,
it's polite, I think.
But
to do
it's,
that.
hold the door for somebody. Your life is not that important. Like I was telling you earlier, that I was kind of brought up, to look that no matter how high you get, you always look up at somebody else's floor. Mm-hmm. And no matter how low you get, you always look down and that's somebody else's ceiling. So somebody's always going to be lower than you. So if you feel like you are at the rock bottom, you're not. You're standing on somebody else's ceiling. And all it is that next roof is another rung for you to climb up on and make that ceiling your floor, And that's just kind of what's pushed me through a lot of hard times is thinking that.
But you're gonna have fun times. You got 2 shows in Colorado Springs coming up, one in September and one in November.
We do. We got September 18th actually at the VFW in Fountain. That show's gonna be from 6 to 8 down there. I like doing a lot of stuff for military. I'm actually wanting to try to get in with USO and do tours like that, whether it be overseas or home or whatever.
I know they had the entertainment here when I worked at Fort Carson.
Yeah, well, I've if anybody knows how to get in touch with the entertainment coordinator or whatever event coordinator at Fort Carson or Schriever or Peterson or any military base, let me know. I'll be glad to talk to them and get something booked, because, you know, I did serve for a short time, but I don't feel that I deserve the recognition that these guys do that have been in, that have seen combat. I've never seen combat as far as military goes, but
some of them seen a lot.
you know, these guys and gals, they need our support now more than ever. So I want to get into doing that, but we're doing another show with another improv comedy group at the Sanctuary Church November 13th. So we'll be doing that. That's going to be open to the public. Haven't got all the details on that yet, but they can go to my Facebook page and website. Once I get information, I'll put it out there for that.
So we'll put as much information as we can across the board here.
Yeah, once I get information on shows, I throw it out there. But I'm always looking to book more shows. So I ain't above going out of state, out of town. So
Cruise ships. We want the cruise ships to call.
Cruise ships. I'm 43 years old, y'all. Never seen the ocean. So never been to the beach. Every time somebody goes to the beach, I'm like, bring me back a Ziploc bag of sand so I can at least see what beach sand looks like.
Our producer loves the beach.
Yes.
Yes.
The beaches of Maine.
My wife has been. She's been to Mexico senior trips. I used to go to Florida every year, and I'm like, I've been to the river. Well, sandbar on the river, about the closest thing I've been to a beach. But
well, we want to thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank y'all for having
truly
me.
been a
Yes,
pleasure having you.
Yes, sir.
And do check out his website. We'll have a little information on the screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share the episode with your friends. Thank you, and good night from Two Men and a Duck. We'll see you next week.
This has been The Third Chair. Want to be a guest? Want to sponsor our show? Send us an email. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.